everyone.
Grand Rising, Grand Rising. This is the Straight Talk Morning Show on the Straight Talk Network. My name is Andre Hill. I'm your host, and we have a live, active panel this rising. This is Grand Rising. We have Mama Kelly up in Atlanta. Mama Kelly, how is the weather? How are things going up there in Atlanta?
It's warming up. The one thing about being here in Atlanta, we can get several days of cold, but pretty soon it's going to warm up again. And, this kind of fools the trees because they'll start blooming in the middle of February, and then we'll get this ice cold March wind, but I'm very happy that it's not cold anymore. Yes. It's sunny, sunny, sunny. Mm-hmm.
Well, we was talking to the chairman, and it's 71 down here in Tampa. It's going to be a high of 78. Chairman, up at Terrence Lake, up in Detroit, Michigan. How you doing this morning?
Grand Rising, everyone. I'm doing great. It's a sunny day here too, and the weather is in the mid 40s. Last week we had it was close to 50. You see people walking around without coats on. So we're looking forward now because we're halfway through February. We'll be in March. So, you never know what March is going to bring. Sometimes they say it comes in like a lamb and go out like a lion. We'll determine that when it happens, but we know it's not far from spring. So it's got a smile on my face.
Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. And also we have my son, engineer, and I don't call him attorney for the tribe. Legal representation. How you doing today, man?
Doing all good. Just making sure we don't have no technical difficulties today.
Yeah, my camera started bleaking out, but I think we're good now.
Yeah.
So we have a line of topics, everything from AI. We want to talk about that. Some of the guys with the oversight companies are resigning because, I don't know if it's the transhumanism or they're losing control. Somebody is taking control of the artificial intelligence, the mainline systems, but it's something weird going on while these guys are retiring. And they are fearful that there's going to be a problem on the horizon. Also, I wanted to bring up the topic, the 300,000 Black women that have been laid off or fired because of DEI regulations being dismantled. Our women, and Mama Kelly is going to help me with this one. We're going into, they go into desperation mode, but our women don't have no faith and confidence in us as men. So they are developing Black women rising scenarios or platforms, and there's no mention how we can team up with our men, our warriors, and chiefs to make this thing happen. So it might be a military strategy. I don't know. Mama Kelly can give me some insight on that one. I watched this movie, Alice, and with Keke Palmer and Common, and it kind of freaked me out because I didn't know where it was going. And all of a sudden, it was a slave camp. I thought it was staged in the 1800s. Kind of find out it was in the 60s. So we got to talk about that. The Three Atlas chairman, he ran across some situations where the crafts are being seen. They're dividing up and they're distributing. So that is... We're getting ready to give our people some positive self-esteem on just how powerful we are when we tap into these beings. And so that's where we are. The Samsung, what is it called? It's not the Samsung. I had it, the Samsung.
That's an option.
Option. I wanted Mama Kelly, because these desperation moves by these different groups that threaten us that if we don't go along with the program or just hand the world over to them to continue dominating us, They're going to threaten us with total destruction. So, but we're going to go ahead and kick this show off. The other key thing, us getting reparations. There is a technique for us getting reparations, but it's not, you're not going to be able to get the Democratic Party or the Republican Party to buy into that because they all been compromised. So they'll play games or, well, we're going to talk. But there's a way we can get reparations. Andre Hill Jr., he will go into some detail on our next step. But let's go ahead and kick this thing off. Just for Claude Anderson, I look up to that brother. He's an astute economist, and basically several years back in the 90s, he said that we will, by this time, we will be fourth-class citizens, on our own land. So that means that the Caucasians, as usual, will be at the top. Then you got the Asians coming in and with their own agenda being underpinned by China, and then the Latinos, coming in. And I saw a disturbing video where they were approaching this brother and calling him all kind of names, and they being very disrespectful to the aboriginals of this planet and to this land. And so, just as Claude Anderson predicted, it's happening. We're in that fourth-class position, and now our economy is being undermined. So what are our options? And we got to talk about that. The movie Alice, well, I watched it, and once again, I thought I was watching one of the regular old slave movies. And then there were hints that there was some modern technology in the slave camp, like a cigarette lighter. And I'm going like, well, how does cigarette lighter? I'm going like, is this a sci-fi movie where that she's going to cross through a portal and go into the future? And my mind was going in different directions. Then all of a sudden, she broke camp and broke out into the highway, and Common was driving up in a big tractor trailer. I was like, wait a minute. And this was based on these slave camps, all, that were secretly being established. This one was what happened to be, I believe it was Mississippi. And these guys were still maintaining the illusion that, and these black folks had no idea that they was free. This was in 1961. Mama Kelly, you familiar with that at all?
No, I'm not. I'm not familiar with that movie, but I sure am going to look it up. But along the Mississippi Delta, even I believe that there may have been slave camps even up until Bill Clinton's day, because I knew a lady who just passed maybe about 4 months ago. Her name was Gonda L. And she knew all that history of the Mississippi Delta. And actually, she was with Empress Verdiasti of the Washita. She was there with the Empress as well. And she knew that history of that cotton belt down there along the Mississippi Delta. So I am not at all surprised that such a movie would be aired, because it's part of. I remember, what was that? One of those very old like what was it? The Sunday evening shows, 60 Minutes and things like that. Remember those? I don't know if they're still coming on, but back in the 60s, I remember them just recently seeing another documentary that was done where the woman was going to pick, I think it was cotton in Florida, every day, and leaving all of her children at home. And she made about $1 a day, This is during the, 60s. Yeah.
Wow.
And she was making $1 a day, and her children, she had to leave them at home because alone, because the school for them costs $1 a day. So I'm not at all surprised. In fact, what do you think the prison industry is?
Yeah.
And look at what has happened now that this guy called, I forget his name, Victoria's Secret. He's the one behind the prison industry, behind Epstein and that whole thing.
Mm.
Y'all know that? Yeah. What's his name? I forget his name. He owns Victoria's Secret, and of course, the word is out, and I have heard about it for a very long time, that the prisoners are making the Victoria's Secret's underwear and things in the prison.
And oh, now that I heard.
Isn't
Well,
that Bob Barker?
that's a man. No, 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 not Bob Barker. No, he was no. Bob Barker was his name Barker. He was TV salesman. Yeah, and so I mean, yeah, it's real.
So Mama Kelly, I believe that the advanced civilization that was hired to come to our planet and test us knew that at this point in time in our history that we were going to wake up. And during this awakening process, they were instructed, and I would say the Caucasians, their leaders, were instructed. They're going to wake up at this point in time, so you have to implement systems and programs to further dismantle their collectiveness. And so this part where our women are some of the most educated women in this country right now, and if you want to match them up with degrees, masters, and PhDs, our women are probably leading the track. But if they don't have a job or a position in this system, then those degrees are worthless. So it's pushing our women into desperation mode because over 400 years they have had no confidence in the men, and so they're in the state of mind, we got to do this ourselves without the men. And so being an alpha male myself, I understand that this situation. But do you ever hear of the Mexican women saying we getting ready to rise without our men, or the Caucasian women, or the Asian women? Why is it just our women? We got to do this and our men are not capable of assisting us.
Are you asking me?
Yes, ma'am.
It's by design.
Yes.
It's totally. And it did start with the very first, invasion, 1400s. That's when it started. Kill the men, impregnate the women, take over the tribe, you know. And that is what pretty much. Now, that they have also, hijacked our women with these higher degrees. Now, that we are very proud of the women that of the fact that the quote, our women are the most educated, but we have to look at what the indoctrination was, not so much as the uh, the letters behind their names. Okay, what was the indoctrination? You see, And what we have to realize is that the education that we have received is there to enhance the power of those who are in power. Now, if you take a look, I don't know the name of the organization that you said that the women are rising, that they're coming together to create a financial system. I don't know who's funding that.
Exactly.
You have to look at where the money is coming from. And I'll guarantee you that we know where it's coming from. Now, I just found the name of the guy who was the founder of Victoria's Secret. His name was Les Wexner. Okay, and he is the money behind that whole um you know uh Epstein thing. He's the money behind that. He's the money behind the prison system. He's Victoria's Secret. So we got to look at all of that, and how that even hijacked our women. I think that one of the biggest things that was the hijack for our women was that series called Scandal.
Oh,
I wasn't a fan of it, and I really didn't watch it, but I did hear people talking about our women, up and coming women would have parties behind that and get together, you know. And so one day I got stuck and there was only a TV, so I sat down and I saw that they were rerunning a whole lot of those scandal movies. So I said, let me watch them. Oh, so that was it. That was a part of the indoctrination of getting our women to look to working with the so-called leadership, and most of our women had what, government jobs, right? And maybe they'll be lucky to be the assistant to a powerful white man.
absolutely.
And I think that that is what began to pull our women into that, you see. But hopefully, I don't know what's going to get to them. I think they have to smell the coffee for sure. And I don't know how you do that, because what do we have? A lot of them are still going to church, you know, and too many of not, and we have good ministers, we have good pastors, but too many of them are running over there to Israel, being, uh, you know, indoctrinated again and given some money under the table for them to go and preach that your salvation is over there, and that anything that they want to do is God's will. So I hope I've said something.
Mama Kelly, let me try to spread the wealth here with the chairman and my son to our women out there. Now, chairman, we hold Mama Kelly and Mama Baba and all of the women of elders. Can you express how critical they are to our organization?
Well, my opinion, they've always been very critical. You know, I mean, they're the first person to educate our children, you know, and like now you get a whole year off when you have a new child, you know, and they compensate you for this here. But it's important that, men should not be jealous of positions that women get, because they have to earn the credentials in order to get those positions. Now, I know there's a lot of games being played, on a higher end to put women in positions more so than men. They cater to them, but the women are qualified. If they weren't qualified, they wouldn't be there, you know. But we as a society have got to come together and you know just make things fair. If it's a brother that's qualified, give him the position. If it's a sister, give him the position. If there's a race for it, you got to decide which one is more qualified, then do it in an honest and fair way to give that position, because some women don't have children and don't want to have children. So is that a position where, okay, she don't have no children, so she don't need a job? She needs a job as well as a man do. Even in a situation where a woman, her man leave her, she might have to go back to school to get the education to support her children or just herself. I've got a daughter that she don't want to have children, don't want to get married. She's educated, very well educated, working 3 jobs, So I would hate to see her not get something that she's well qualified for. We just have to make things fair. If we make things fair, nobody have no gripe, no gripes at all. But things aren't fair. We know that.
Okay, so Andre Jr., now you understand the value because you know how we be moving along and we can get things done, but until we get our women involved, have you noticed how things have improved now that we're getting our women back into our organization?
Oh yeah, yeah, of course. Um, I always say this uh, as a young Black Aboriginal man, especially for our sisters. Um, yeah, I really don't have the issue that some of our men gripe about because I'm primarily building something all the time, right? And I noticed this about sisters, about women in general. I think women understand sustainability and power even better than men do. And this is what I mean. Since physically they're not the I guess dominant gender, right? Then they understand the necessity for it better than we do. Because in other words, we walk around with it all the time, and we tend to take it for granted. But women, on the other hand, understand that in order to, sustain, especially in a world full of men. In other words, not only in a world full of men, in a world full of other organisms that can attack you, basically, right? They understand the necessity for provision and protection even better. So, as a man, and you are building with that protection and provision in mind, I don't have any problems coming from my women when it comes to assisting me, right? Yeah, I try to tell my brothers, if you are looking for support from our women, then you should be building something that provides protection and provision over the community. In other words, if you're building something that's protecting and providing for the children, you get all the support from the women that you need. All right. Furthermore, like, I mean, in this, I'm just telling y'all my experience personally, as just as a 40-year-old Black Aboriginal man. Um, I probably have more help than I actually need from our sisters, just simply because my whole agenda is, all right, how do I put myself into position, keep my health up to par so that I can, so I can build. Now, mind you, me personally, I mean, I get this. This isn't going to be every man, but I like building. That's me. But even for brothers who, let's say, who are not mechanically or constructually, inclined, even if your intention is to invest in protection and provision for the community, you'll probably see the same results from the sisters. Like, okay, this man is about life, essentially, right? In other words, in the eyes of women, you get deemed as a benefit within our own ecosystem. Now, that's not saying that, that's all our, job is, as men is just, be work mules. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying this to the brothers. I mean, there is personal gratification and accolade and building something that is sustaining the community, family. And so, going back to your other point, Pops, I do see, what's happening based on what you were saying, sisters who are willing to or wanting to band together and say, all right, we can't depend on, brothers or men in general, so we're going to get together as a collective of women and do this ourselves. I see that, and I'll be honest with you, I even support it, and I'm not supporting it from a any kind of misogynistic perspective, anything like that. I mean, my thing is this. I mean, I don't see a problem with that until women who want to do that say there is a problem with that, and they identify what those problems are to us. But then even further, though, at that point, not to be, throwing these cliche terms out here or phrases, but the women who wanted to do that, in other words, form a community of themselves, for themselves, by themselves, if there becomes issues that they can't solve among themselves, and then who are they? And if they come back to, let's say, a balanced community seeking help, we have to say, hey, okay, so where was the accountability? Where did you go wrong? Right? Where did you go wrong over there? We have to figure that out. I mean, I think that's what's going to happen. That's inevitable. But either way, like Chairman said, I think it's resolvable if we just come together on it.
All right, so I got a little cutout here. Here's the economic impact of what's happening right now, based on I googled it, did some little research. It says the economic impact. Experts warn this high rate of displacement could have broader economic consequences, as Black women often serve as critical economic indicators and primary breadwinners. So now, with these sisters being displaced out of their economic system, it's having an effect on uncle, cousin, all the men, who are relying on this income coming into our community, and women give us work and share that prosperity in most cases. So if their trend now is to force our women, and this is why I brought up the movie to Alice, their mindset is they want our women back in slavery where they have full access to them, to rape them. Because in the movie, Alice was upstairs and she accidentally walked into the wrong room. And so the slave master, who in modern time dressed up like they were still in slavery, went and pulled her dress up and did something. They cut away from him. I'm glad they did. But that is where they are going. They cannot operate this system on a level playing field without them dominating. If they can't dominate, and this is the part that I want Mama Kelly to expand on the Sansom issue. They were to blow the whole planet up.
Blow the whole thing up.
And that's what they're preparing for right now, because they knew we were going to wake up. But even as our nation is building, we're still having interference. They're still interfering with us. They're still approaching our women, trying to buy them off. Just recently, we've had 3 or 4 women that were in our organization that are critical pieces that they manipulated or threatened, or whatever the case might be, because they know that we're waking up, and they know that this particular group, this collective that you're just seeing, we're just the tip of the iceberg. We know how to get us reparations. We know how to build our communities back again. We know how to exchange on an international level with other Aboriginal nations. So we don't need them anymore. So they're in desperation mode, and they are preparing to do whatever. But as a collective, when our women and our men, we come together and sit down, break bread, and say, for the sake of our children, we got to reverse this trend. We can stop this, and we can tap into a high spiritual source, which the chairman is going to talk about through our atlas again, what it's doing. We can tap into those advanced beings to protect us. We don't have to worry about this savage mentality of being attacked anymore. It's straightforward. So this is the point that we're trying to get across to our women. You're gonna be losing your jobs because that's the design is they want you back into slavery. And when you lose the jobs, you're gonna be out there. And I can see it. I study social media all day, off and on, and I see the mindset of our women of maneuvering how I'm gonna survive. If I lose my job or I've already lost my job. So they're coming up with different independent economic strategies, but it's going to eventually break down if the community break down. Black men, we are already struggling to try to maintain and compete because they got us really. If they sign our paychecks, we're really in trouble. So the point we're getting at there, you cannot depend on the Democratic Party. You cannot depend on the Republican Party. You cannot depend on the NAACP or none of these Divine Nine organizations because they're all linked into or were set up by the very people that's enslaving us. So you can't their charter will not allow them to do the right thing to set your people free. So our people free. So what we are advocating at this juncture is that in this hour of desperation, while some of us still have jobs, we need to restructure and reestablish our Aboriginal status because everything else it has all been exhausted. The religious constructs, they've been exhausted. The economic constructs, they have been exhausted. So now the burden is on us to bring these economic pieces, these self-sustainable community. Let's change our status back to Aboriginal and start moving forward. Use that brain power, not to try to appease this Caucasian that's been here doing these crazy things for 400 years. They're not going to accept no appeasement. They can't operate on a level playing field. And so that's where we are. And what this show is always trying to do is wake up our people, start preparing us for the alternative, because none of the other groups that I just mentioned have an alternative plan other than let's vote with the Democrats. No, the Democrats are the one that set all this crap up. They did some serious damage under the auspices, and we keep voting with them religiously. And they were some of the main ones that brought these different cultures in because they need a new host. They parasite, and we're no longer good hosts. Mommy Kelly, you can expand on that and then explain to them how desperate they are with the Samson effect. I mean, if you want to take it.
Okay, we can see if you take a look at what has happened over the past, say, couple of weeks or so. It had if you understand that or understand whatever, that if a head of a foreign country can fly into your country, you haven't invited them, they can fly into your country, go to your legislator where the laws are made, and stand up in front of them and tell them what that foreign nation wants, and they get it, then that's the head of your nation, not the one that was ignored. And we know one who has been able to do that and goes right before the Black Caucus and he's treated like the king. Why?
And I'm gonna
Because
say
they've
it,
all
Mama Kelly.
been bought off by that foreign nation.
And I'm gonna say
Okay?
it for you, Mama Kelly. Ben not
Don't
yet.
say it. Don't say it. And see, the whole thing about it is that that's it. On social media, you can't write it, you can't say it, the name of the people or the country. And this is in our country where we say that we have freedom of speech. That's not true. And especially now, when the very demon that has caused all the problems here in the world, especially for the last 1,000 years, you can't even call the name, you know? And so that Samson option is what they call it, the Samson option, where they will create a World War III that destroys the whole country or the world. Because if you let those nuclear bombs off, they will cause what they call the nuclear winter. So if anything starts in the northern hemisphere, then the northern hemisphere will be covered in ice. Okay, and perhaps some of the southern hemisphere will survive. But that's their Samson option. If they can't win, then they will take everything out and everybody, they'll take them out. Okay, so there you are. That's the one who, has so much power over the United States corporation, which is in defunct. They still have enough power to go straight to the White House, go straight to Congress, and tell them what they want, and they get it. Okay. All right. I'm landing.
So they can come in our tax money under our so-called U.S. citizenship with the United States Corporation of America. Mount Kelly, this fool, when Obama was in office, this fool was so disrespectful. He didn't go and meet with Obama. He went right to Congress and addressed him like he was the damn commander in chief.
Well, he is.
All right, okay. I'm not going.
Everybody is now realize it. Well, not everybody, but those of us who want to open our eyes, and it is. I have to take Kanye West. Slavery is a choice. Okay, all right. Because if you don't want to open your eyes to the truth, then you have accepted slavery. Really? Am I right?
You're right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you don't want to see what's really going on behind the curtain, then you have opted to be a slave. That's your choice.
Well, Mama Kelly, so this is what all them brothers that said I wouldn't have been bent down and been in them fields picking cotton. So we're in that same situation right now. All those brothers that said, hey, I jack massa up, so here's your opportunity right now to get with our Aboriginal tribe, get your status correction, and so that we can build the numbers. And two things happen. We justify our economic stability. We can negotiate with other countries. We can start our own internal bartering system and shift. But here's the other issue. When we demonstrate that, there are two entities. Hey man, can you key up that video of what happened? It's important that we play this here. There are two entities operating on this planet with technology. One of them came to our government many years. We've talked about this before on the show, and offered, you don't have to have any diseases, food problems. We'll give you all the technology that you need for humanity. And the Caucasian president that was in place said, "Well, we'll get back with you on that." Go ahead and play it, man.
I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "I'm from your planet that your Bible calls the morning and the evening star." I said, "Venus?" He said, "Yes, the inside of Venus." I said, "How did you get here?" He said, "I came in a saucer craft which is called Victor 1. I said, "What is your name?" He said, "Commander Valiant Thor." He said, "You call me Val." I said, "Thank you." "And how long have you been here?" 3.5 years, this coming March 16th of 1960. "And what have you been doing here?" He said, "I've been conversing with the President of the United States, Dwight D. Eisenhower, and Mr. Nixon, who I met personally some years afterward, and several members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff." He said, "I brought a gift for them. And this gift was in my hands, and I looked into the eyes of Mr. Eisenhower. I said, this information will do away with sickness, disease, and even death in the United States, and then you can share it with other nations." Gave it to the president. President Eisenhower received this information. It took them over 1 year to get back to the commander. He was their guest for 3 years at the Pentagon. And 1 year later, the president came back, met with the commander again, with this information in his hands, shaking his head. He said, "I'm sorry, we cannot accept this information because it will ruin the economy of the United States."
Okay.
I said, "Where are you from?"
Go ahead. Hit it. So it's not ruining the economy in the United States. What it will ruin is their way of life. We have to dominate, we have to enslave you in order to level the playing field. That's the bottom line of that. So these beings, these demons that's controlling our economy, our government, and all that, they can't operate on a level playing field against Aboriginal people, the natural humans that were created. So that's why they turned this deal down. So a lot of people gonna say, "Well, there's a Caucasian man delivering this." Yeah, because they in their soul, they want to correct things. They want to eliminate their generational curses. So you have to understand our people. You're not gonna fix this with these organizations that were set up by the enemy and these political systems, the Democrats or the Republicans. They can't fix it because they're owned by that little bastard that came from the Middle East, and they got that's what the Epstein files is all about. They got dirt on all 95% of these political people, and so they can't vote against that little bastard from the Middle East. So why are we going to continue to play in this game that the odds are stacked against us? And so that's the whole purpose of this show and getting out. We're at that point now. The other thing is those entities that want to offer that technology, we don't need these bastards to intervene on our behalf. We can contact them directly as a collective with pure heart. You can't go in there, "Well, what's in it for me? I want to be edified as a god," and they're gonna look at you and say, "You just like them demons that enslave you." So this is where we are. We're basically saying we have to, as the chairman say, we got to just come together, but it's deeper now. It's mandatory because they put these systems in place, and I promise you, when we elevate our frequency to talk to these advanced civilizations, none of them bastards can fire a nuclear warhead or use any of their technology if those advanced beings shut it down, because they gave it to us, hand-me-down technology. So we can tap into the higher being, shut all of this craziness down, and build out a utopia on this planet. Chairman, what is going on with 3i Atlas? How they're maneuvering? What's the latest on that?
Oh, there's so much going on. But the main thing right now that we got to realize that they're showing force. They've come into our solar system where they've already had spies here. And we know this for a long time. Even when you're speaking about Eisenhower not accepting the deal that they wanted to present to us. This could have been done a long time ago, solved in heaven on earth. But it's not happening because of the greed. The powers to be want to be in control. You know, and they're running scared now because of 3i Atlas, are making certain maneuvers that we dreamed that we could do this here. But, the thing is, they're not going to let the forces to be on this planet destroy this planet because they've proven that they could stop our missile systems. They've shut it down, 10 of them in a row. They've intercepted a missile that was going out in space, and they showed you this here footage of it, and they disarmed it. So we really don't have too much to worry about because right now this is 2026. By 2027, that everything's going to be laid out on the table. The extraterrestrials are going to bring their ships and land them somewhere on this planet. This has already been planned for. You've got different channelers that could channel spirits from other areas, are telling you that your skies will be full of our ships, and we just got to accept that we need to come together so they don't have to force us into, being righteous and doing the right thing and accepting what they have to offer us, because what they're doing, we wish that we could do. We're trying to do this here. We're spending trillions of dollars to try to be in that position, but they've got it. And like I said before, they're our kin. They could be sitting right here next to us and we wouldn't even know unless they told us, you know. But I'm just so excited to know that they're here in force instead of, behind the closed doors where some of us just don't have, the ability to even conceive of what's really going on. Because what's happening right now is beautiful. And, I said it would have happened 2 or 3 years ago on this show that I just knew it was going to happen. I was so anxious to see something happen, but it didn't happen at that time. But now I'm convinced no more than 2 years. It could happen this year. These are the vibrations that are, setting up, even with our organization, how we're coming together. And like you say, all these sisters that are getting involved, there's power in numbers. And we just got to come together and it's game's over.
All
I'll
right.
land that plane.
All right, the UFO has landed. So, as we get in close, Mama Kelly, I would like for you to close out with your final comment. Also, what you are picking up on how they're affecting our schools, and then Andre Jr. will explain how you can get your status correction and your Aboriginal nationality, and we'll wrap this baby up. Go ahead, Mama Kelly.
Oh, okay. We can actually observe how we as a people are being manipulated at this time. We may not even be aware. Okay. It could be a psyop, or we could just not pay attention to it, or we could feel impelled to follow instructions or directions. But the thing that is happening now, when evil gets cornered, it will reach out to find the most vulnerable host. And there was a plan that was put in place by the Zionist movement to actually indoctrinate the youth of America. And that Zionist movement, which was put to bed with the daytime assassination of a young Euro-American who was going to college campuses and helping to indoctrinate new Zionists. But when that leader, whose name, young white boy, 30 years old, he was moving around to the college campuses, and the Zionists wanted him to push their agenda. And he found out, or his conscience actually clicked, and he said, no, I cannot support what's going on here. And so that movement has been put on in check because of a so-called African American woman, Aboriginal woman. She will find out very soon. Her name's Candace Owens. She has unleashed all of the evil that's going on around the Zionist movement to take over the world. Okay, because that's the bottom line. Okay, so now that they lost that move to take over to indoctrinate the young white children on college campuses into Zionism, they lost that battle. Now they've come after our children. Now they have these ads out where they're trying to promote, like it looks like they're trying to say that, okay, well, our friends are now the Black Americans, and so we have the same history of discrimination. That is what they're trying to push. Is that, and so they're going after our high schools. They're setting up organizations in our high schools, and also in the historical Black colleges and universities. They're setting up organizations and meetings to get us to support the Zionist movement, which is, if you have your eyes open at all right now, we know what they're doing in the Middle East, and because we can't call their names without being targeted, then we know what's going on in the Middle East as far as should I say, genocide of a whole group of people for individual profit by the Zionist movement to take over the world. So they're after us, calling us our friends, when it was a couple of years ago that they sat in their legislator called the Knesset and said that we were the enemy. Young Black boys are the enemy of that state. Now they want the same young Black boys to support them. How is that? Are we so stupid we can turn around and then just forget all that has happened? Are we that stupid? And so I land that right now.
Hey man, go ahead and tell them what they do the status correction and close us out, man.
Yeah, family. Go to uaarnation.org. Go to the nationality page. Read the instructions there. Very detailed instructions laid out by our admin team. Hit the links, and you just sign up. You'll get your instructions to tell you to do your genealogy, what we call it, a tribal screening, which includes your genealogy as well. Do that first, then move on to the nationality application. And then after that, you will schedule within that, I should say, with that nationality application, you'll schedule an orientation with me, the chief jurist of the United Aboriginal American Republic, and we'll get you in there like swimwear. All right. But I think it's been a great show. As always, family, thank y'all for tuning in. Peace and love. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace out.
Peace, everybody.
Conversation piece.